but this is the first rain break we had. So a nice day to be doing a travel talk rather than being out enjoying the sun, because there's no sun to enjoy. But today I'm going to just talk about why Scotland is such a wonderful destination, and Leah is going to bring a group there next September, and hopefully many of you will travel with her. She did a group with our company 2 years ago in Ireland that was very successful, and Leah is a great supporter of us and is always recommending other people to visit Ireland and other travel agents, clients to go as well. So she's a great advocate for RIT. So thank you for all you do for us, Leah.
Yeah, it was actually only a year ago that we were in Ireland.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Last year, just a year ago. But next year when we go to Scotland, then it will be 2 years, tell her, since our last Ireland trip. Yeah.
So a bit about our company first. It used to be called Royal Irish Tours, but rebranded then to RIT Vacations, as we had another business, Royal Scottish Tours, because we just sold Ireland and Scotland, but then we started selling England and Wales as well, and it was getting a bit confusing. So we just changed the name to RIT Vacations. People still know us mostly as Royal Irish or Royal Scottish though. So we're a family owned and operated company. Our owner, Ian Duffy, is from Ireland. He's over 40 years in the travel industry. He set up Royal Irish Tours and Royal Scottish Tours now 20 years ago. Our first Scotland brochure actually printed back in, we did some trivia in work the other week, and people had to guess when the first Scottish brochure was printed. I believe it was 2004. So we started off selling Ireland and have been selling Scotland since 2004 now. So it's grown from strength to strength, and we're now Canada's leading tour operator selling Ireland and Scotland. But very much a family business. So Ian there in the top left with his son Connor, and in the picture below, that's some of our Dublin office, as well as on the left, one of Ian's other children, Ronan. So three of his four children work full-time for the company. Irish and Scottish roots run deep. A lot of our staff have Irish and Scottish connections, or like me, are from Ireland or Scotland. We have two lovely ladies in our office, one from Edinburgh, one from Glasgow, which always causes a bit of tension, but always some friendly slaggings about which is a better city, etc. So in terms of what RIT sell, we do coach tours, are the main part of our business. We also do smaller sightseeing tours, some tours by train, driving holidays and chauffeur drives. And we also do city stays in any of the major cities in Scotland, England, Ireland or Wales. We do some day trips out of the major cities as well. Family travel is becoming more popular now as well, and we're starting to specialize in that. But what we've worked with mainly with Leah is custom group trips. So a fully customized itinerary going to many of the best bits in any of the countries, and fully customizing the trip. So lots of great options when you're traveling with RIT. We always say our staff are really what sets us apart, and their experience, they're local, and they're full of wit and charm. And the picture here is Joe O'Connor, who's been with us right from the start. He's in his 20th year with us, but all our guides in Scotland would be locals, and you'd have a professional driver and a guide with you for the duration of the trip, and they're always characters, and they really do make the trip as well. Who did you have on your Ireland trip, Leah, as your guide?
Joe. And
oh yeah, Joe Russell.
Joe Russell, yeah. He was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
He brings his guitar along with him, and whenever he gets the chance, he played us a tune, and he loves to sing as well, which was so fun. It was almost like we were at the wheels on the bus go, as we're going down the road, he'd have a song about the area that we were visiting, and he'd sing it to us or else play it. So it was great.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No, they really do make the trip as well. And they're so full of knowledge. Most of our guides are normally like retired teachers generally. So many actually worked with us while they were still working as teachers. So they would do 3 months in the summer, and then once they've retired, they've kind of started working full time for us. So, a few of them are a little older, but they really do make the trip, and they have a lot of great stories they'll tell you as you go. On any tour with RIT, breakfast is always included. We generally do 4-star accommodations, but of course, there's always, you can do a mix. You can do anything from castles and manors to 5 stars to 4 stars. But for group trips, it would generally be mainly 4-star hotels. And most of your dinners would be included and admission to all your attractions as well. So if you are looking at the price point, just realize that quite a lot would be included. And so it's kind of peace of mind while you're there. And so why Scotland? Well, there are many great reasons. I always say, why not Scotland? When you see pictures like this, it really is absolutely breathtaking. Edinburgh and Glasgow, the two major cities in the south, both very historic, lots of wonderful castles and cathedrals and a lot of rich history there. But really, Scotland, for me, it's all about the Highlands and traveling north and visiting the islands and seeing the stunning landscapes is what people, I think of when they think of Scotland is the Highlands and Scotch and, you know, the Highland Coo and everything you experience when you're there. But I always say it's the people, the music and the food, perhaps not the reason people go, but often the reason they want to come back. You will meet lots of friendly locals wherever you go. Scotland does have a fantastic food scene, perhaps not known so much for its foodie scene, but in the last 10, 15 years, really prided itself on kind of similar to Ireland with the local cuisine. Everything's kind of sourced, they pride themselves on farm to fork, everything's sourced 15 to 20 miles from where you're eating it. You'll see lots of, whiskeys or beers or gins that have come from 10 miles down the road that you've never heard of. And they really support local farmers and local produce. So it's really nice when you're there. Going to any Scottish pub, similar to Ireland, you'll often see live Irish music and entertainment. You'll see some buskers on the street, especially in Edinburgh and Glasgow, two very bustling and fun cities. So I just put a map here just to give you an idea of distances in Scotland. Excuse my drawing on it now in a moment, not the need of drawings, but just gives you an idea of how small Scotland is and how easy it is to get around. So from Glasgow up to Inverness, it's about a 3-hour drive. So generally, people would go Glasgow, Fort William, and then on to Inverness. It's kind of like a day trip, and then use Inverness as a base. And then they would come back Inverness to Edinburgh, or you can go either road up north. But it's about 3 hours up to Inverness, which is kind of the third city in Scotland. From Inverness, you're about 2 hours from the Isle of Skye. You're about 2 hours up to Stornoway in the Outer Hebrides. And you're about 3 hours up to the Orkney Islands. So really, it's very easy to get around, a lot smaller than Alberta. And then from Glasgow to Edinburgh, one of the great things is it's only a 45-minute drive between the two major cities. So a lot of people will arrive into Glasgow on their flight, but then start their tour from Edinburgh, or arrive into Edinburgh and finish their tour in Glasgow. And again, it's only a short 40 minutes to 45-minute transfer on the last day to get to the airport, which is great. So very easy to get around. In a week, 10 days, you can really see quite a lot. If you are going to explore the islands, like Leah will be with many of you on next year's trip, I recommend about 10 or 11 days is a good amount of time to get your fill of the Highlands and also some of the cities. And so I've just put together some information. There's still a few things being finalized on the itinerary, but I've kind of just picked out some of the things that are going to be on it to try and inspire you and hopefully teach you a bit about Scotland as we go. So it's going to be an 11-day, 10-night tour. You'd have an experienced driver and guide with you for the duration of the trip. You'd have first-class accommodation, so mostly 4-star accommodation. Breakfast is always included. So it would be a full Scottish breakfast. People always ask what that includes, but what doesn't it include would be a better question. There's always sausages, bacon, and there'd be fresh porridge, and there'd be continental breakfast, fruits, and lots of other goodies, yogurts, orange juice, tea, coffee, eggs, any sort of way. It's generally buffet style in the hotels in Scotland, but some hotels would do table service. But generally, and if they do that, it would be cold food as buffet, and then it'd be served to your table. But, there might be some differences with COVID and everything in the future. It might be less buffet and more table service. So we'll get a better idea in the next month or so of what that's going to be like. So then there'll be 4 or 5 evening meals included at the hotels and a Scottish entertainment evening with some Scottish dancing. Generally, we do that on the final night of any tour, and it's a great way to finish off the tour. You go back in time on the Jacobite steam train from Fort William to Mallaig, so it's about a 2-hour journey on a steam train, which is a really fantastic experience. Visits to many wonderful castles, including a 13th century one on the Isle of Skye, a sheepdog performance at King Craig, and visit 2 of Scotland's most wonderful islands, the Outer Hebrides and also the Isle of Skye. So I'll just pick out some of those experiences as we go, but quite a lot included in 10 or 11-day trip. You get your fill of the cities with 2 nights in both Glasgow and Edinburgh, a night in Inverness, and you also get out to the islands with 4 nights on the islands as well. So again, excuse my messy writing here. I've just done a little drawing for you just to show you the route. So you'll be arriving Glasgow on day 1, and then with the day trip to Stirling on day 2, which would be about 30 minutes north of Glasgow. And then it would be travel north up to Fort William, and at Fort William, that's where you would hop on the steam train. So the coach driver and guide would drop you there. You join the steam train and travel to Mallaig on the train, and then you'd be met by your guide again, and then you take the short ferry ride up to the Isle of Skye, where you have 2 days to explore the beautiful island. So you'll see some pictures of it in a minute. It really is an amazing experience going to the Isle of Skye, and it's kind of what you would see Scotland in a brochure. The Isle of Skye basically is that, and you'll see now what I mean. It's our pictures. From the Isle of Skye, then travel up to the Outer Hebrides. So it's great. You can just hop from island to island, and then have 2 days on the Outer Hebrides exploring some of the wonderful attractions there. They have some of the nicest beaches in the world, not just in Scotland, but in the world. And I'll show you a picture of one of their beaches there, which are lovely for a nice walk along if you have some free time one of the evenings or early morning. Then you get the ferry across to Ullapool and come down to Inverness, which is about 2 hours, and then a night in Inverness, and then travel south through the Cairngorms National Park, 1 night in the Perthshire area in Dunkeld or similar, and then travel via the famous town of St Andrews. Lots of people want to get their picture at the 18th hole in St Andrews, the most famous golf course in the world, although Augusta National might rival that for being just as famous. But it's a really nice town. We generally do 2 or 3 hour stop there. So you have time to get lunch, explore the town. Lots of people will go into the golf shop to get their St Andrews hat or some golf balls or, a ball marker or something. So a really nice visit there. And then down to Edinburgh for 2 nights, and then your transfer back to Glasgow or to Edinburgh Airport, depending on which airport you're going into. So as you see, you take in quite a lot of the country in 10 or 11 days, but that just gives you an idea of kind of distances and how easy it is to get around Scotland. So on day 1, we arrive into Glasgow. You'd be met by your driver and guide in the airport, a short transfer into the city where you do a panoramic tour. Glasgow is Scotland's largest city, so very much an industrial city, while Edinburgh would be more, the capital, the finance capital. But Edinburgh is one of the oldest cities in the world, and it's absolutely amazing city. While Glasgow is, a little more rustic, I would say. So you do a nice panoramic tour, so you get an idea of what the city is like, and then you visit St Mungo's Cathedral before an early check-in. So generally early afternoon check-in, so you have time to relax and acclimatise and a bit of free time to do some shopping if you would like. And then an early dinner before having a nice sleep, because you would have flown overnight from Canada all the way to Glasgow. And then day 2, you do a day trip to Stirling Castle, most famous for being the birthplace of Mary, Queen of Scots. So one of the many castles you'll experience in Scotland, but a really, really nice visit and some free time in Stirling to explore the lovely town as well, and a bit more free time in Glasgow. So the good thing about visiting Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales is they're quite small, so there is a good mix of free time. There's not really long travel days. There might be 1 or 2 long travel days, but mostly, a leisurely pace. You have a few hours to really experience the attractions you're visiting or the little towns that you're stopping in along the way. Then as you travel north from Glasgow, this is the famous Jacobite steam train seen in the picture here. And so it's about an hour and a half to hour 40 minutes. You take a one-way journey from Fort William, and so you board your train, and it is like going back in time. So really fantastic experience, pulled along by the steam engine there. And you travel through the West Highland Way, and so you see that absolutely majestic scenery there. And then you arrive in Mallock, where you're met by your driver and guide to continue along your trip. But this is always one of the highlights of the trip, so I always recommend definitely including this as part of the journey. So just to give you an idea of where we are, so Fort William is where you would hop on that train and then travel north to Mallock before the short commute over to the Isle of Skye, where you'll spend your next 2 days. And the next picture, you'll see what I mean by the brochure picture of the Isle of Skye. So you can see there's one car there. There's not a person nor an animal inside. It really is a majestic place. Not really, it's got a very small population. There's not a huge amount of hotels and accommodation on the island. So it's always great to be able to get space in one of the 2 nice 4-star hotels. And then you travel through this amazing scenery. And it really is just about taking in the breathtaking scenery, lots of stops for photo stops, etc. And lots of quaint little villages and towns along the way as well. And of course, lots of really beautiful castles. This again is a very historic image of Scotland, and you know what you think of when you think of Scotland. But when you get to Isle of Skye and the Outer Hebrides, you really are experiencing what I call the real Scotland. Just to give an idea then of where you are, so Isle of Skye, then you travel north up to Stornoway and explore the beautiful Outer Hebrides. Again, as I said, some beautiful beaches and things there. Look at that, absolutely stunning. Hopefully you get some nice weather when you're up there, because you're traveling further north. It can get a little chilly as you go further north in Scotland, but if you get a clear day and it's not too windy, there's no better place to go for a nice evening or a morning stroll out on the beach. If you're brave enough, you could even go in for a dip. Be a little chilly in there. But, you know, the locals, you'll probably see a couple of crazy locals in there having a little dip. But really, really beautiful, and all the islands are amazing in Scotland. But when you go to these ones, the Isle of Skye and the Outer Hebrides, as well as the Orkneys, would be the 3 most popular. But the Outer Hebrides and Isle of Skye are 2 absolutely amazing visits. Then from there, you would travel east towards Inverness, where you would do a lovely night. Inverness is kind of the 3rd largest city in Scotland. Again, a really nice city, and the good thing about Inverness is everything is so close. I did one of our smaller sightseeing tours here last year, so I just did a 2-day trip from Edinburgh. So it was about 3 hours up to Inverness, and then we had a free evening in Inverness, and really you're walking distance to everything, no matter what hotel you're at. There's lots of really great restaurants, and it's probably my favorite city in Scotland is Inverness. Some really wonderful attractions not far by. If time permits, you'd probably be going to the Culloden battlefield on day 2 of Inverness visit, which is where the last major battle on the island of Britain took place, and they do some reenactments, and you actually walk out onto the battlefield. So a really nice experience as well. And then, of course, you get to meet lots of the locals along the way. This picture was actually taken by my colleague Orla when she was on our Scottish Royal trip last year. So you'll see the famous Hieland Coo as you go through the Highlands and in many of the areas. But they're always very friendly. They'll come over and say hello to you. And sometimes you might even see them on the road. That's a Scottish traffic jam, if you Hieland Coo. You tend to get a lot of sheep traffic jams in Ireland, but you're more likely to get a cow traffic jam in Scotland. So just to give you an idea then, from Stornoway, it's about 2 hours via Ullapool to Inverness, and then the next day be down through the Cairngorm National Park and stay in the Perthshire area in Dunkeld House Hotel. So this day, obviously, you can't go to Scotland without tasting a wee dram or 2 along the way. So there's an option to either include a distillery on this day or on one of the earlier days. But there are so many to choose from. We'll figure that out with Leah close to the time. We'll find out what her favourite Scotch is, or if she does. Do you like Scotch, Leah? Are you a Scotch drinker?
No, I don't think so. Well, I am not one that is a real alcoholic, so I don't. I don't know. There's something. We went to a whiskey that Bushmills, in
Yeah,
Ireland,
northern.
and that I had to take a sip just to try it, but I think my eyeballs nearly popped out of my out of my
Yeah.
head. The really, really, really dark one was, not my fave, but some people did enjoy it. So
Yeah, it's not for everyone, but I mean, in some places in Scotland as well as Bushmills in Northern Ireland, they actually put whiskey, a little bit of whiskey and honey on their porridge in the morning.
oh wow,
Yeah, so
that's when
they
you're
brought
really
up.
Scottish.
Yeah, no, and my great grandmother is from Scotland, and she used to give us, if we were sick or complaining of being sick when we were young, she'd give us a spoon of whiskey as our medicine.
Oh wow.
So it was never very nice. So you wouldn't say you were sick anymore after
Exactly.
that. So
That was all the cure you
good
needed.
ploy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
So
some
anyways,
people are looking forward to this trip to visit the whiskey distillery. So we do have some fans
yeah,
of whiskey for sure.
yeah, no, absolutely, and it's great to get the tour and tasting. I didn't realize just how big Scotch is, because when Prohibition was happening in the US back in the day, the Scot, believe it or not, the Scottish were way better than the Irish at sneaking in their whiskey. So Scotch kind of took off, while Irish whiskey was left way behind. So I think there's over 150 whiskey distilleries in Scotland, which is crazy. And in Ireland, you think there's lots of Irish whiskies, but I think there's only 17 distilleries or
Oh
something.
wow, what a
So it's
difference.
incredible. Yeah, exactly. And obviously Scotch is famous because of the landscape of Scotland. So the peat and the moisture in the air gives it that peaty flavor. So not for everyone, it is a very strong flavor, but a really nice and interesting experience to get a tour and tasting of a Highland whiskey distillery. And yeah, Dunkeld House, which is the accommodation they booked there. That's used. I haven't watched Outlander, but I believe it's used in Outlander as one of the country homes. So really nice place to stay. And then from there, you're only a short trip to St. Andrews, where you do a quick stop, 2 or 3 hours, get some photos at the famous 18th hole in St. Andrews, and explore the lovely little town before coming down to Edinburgh. So Edinburgh, as I said, is Scotland's oldest city. I think in early 1800s it had one of the largest, or if not the largest population in Europe. So the new town in Scotland was built in the 1850s. That's the new part. So when you're in there, you think, wow, I was staying in the new part of Edinburgh when I was staying there last year. And I thought I was in the old part. All the buildings look really historic, kind of Georgian architecture, a lot before that. And then I found out I was in the new town. Well, the old town was built in the 15th or 16th century. So Edinburgh Castle obviously being the highlight, which you can see pretty much everywhere you go in the city. And then there's the Royal Mile, as they call it, which is still really historic and everything's intact. So lots of great restaurants and bars. If you do, you get a lovely panoramic tour with the guide as well. But if you want to get a little bit of extra, hop on, hop off bus as well. And the guides on there are absolutely hilarious, and they really bring the story of the city to life. So Edinburgh Castle, obviously a highlight, and we always include it. So you do a pre-opening tour of the Edinburgh Castle before it's open to the general public. So you should see how busy it gets in August, September. Just because the Edinburgh Tattoo's, of course, on at the start of August, but into September, you still get a lot of people visiting, and this is kind of the main attraction in Scotland. So it's great to get a tour before it's really busy, and then you kind of have a free day, and you're right in the heart of the city for some free time and things to explore everything Edinburgh has to offer. then, of course, you can't go to Scotland without enjoying some Scotch dancing and music. So we like to always include a Scottish entertainment evening. A tip for you: if you don't want to get up and dance, don't make eye contact with the dancers, because they will drag you up. They might even get you to sing along as well. But they really do. It's a really nice way to finish your trip. And kind of as you go throughout Scotland, you'll meet lots of friendly locals, and you really will feel at home in Scotland. That's what the tourist board are always saying in their advertising campaigns. Welcome home, or come home to Scotland. It really is home away from home, I would say. Really very hospitable people there. So yeah, that's kind of just a quick overview of Scotland to give you an idea of some of the wonderful things to see and do. When you do go, obviously getting there from Alberta, probably via Toronto or via London Heathrow are the easiest ways. And I know Leah is going to figure out the best way to get everyone there next September. But there's great access into both Glasgow and Edinburgh. And it's only, from Toronto, it's only a 7-hour flight. So from Alberta, you're looking at maybe, 10 hours to London, and then an hour up to Edinburgh if you're going that way, or via Dublin. So lots of really great options, and not too far. So we always don't include too much on the first day, so you're not too tired, and then touring really would begin on day 2. But lots of really wonderful places to visit as you go along. Anything to add there, Leah, on what I mentioned?
Well, I was just actually going to... there's a few questions that are coming up. So yeah. I guess a couple things that I was going to mention. A couple nice things that people should note about this tour is that there's a few nights where we have 2 nights in the same hotel. And that happens, it looks like, I think 3 times for our tour. Yeah. 3 are actually 4 times where we stay 2 nights in the same hotel, which is 4 kind of nice because you're not moving every night, which is what we were doing for Ireland. And sometimes it would be nice just to stay another night in the same place, not have to pack up again right away the next morning. So we'll get to do that 4 times. So that's one thing to note. Another one to note is I was just looking at flight pricing right now out of September this year. And Glasgow is quite a bit cheaper than going to Edinburgh. So I think that's, if it's the same next year, we would probably just go in and out of Glasgow than Edinburgh. And being that they are relatively close in distance, it's not a big deal. So what else? Jenna's asking, do we have any castle stays this time?
No, unfortunately, there's no castle stay. The issue is in Ireland, there really is an abundance of wonderful castles that have been turned into luxury accommodations. There are some in Scotland, but the price point is very, very high. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's none included, but some really nice manor house style properties, like the Isle of Skye, Inverness and Stornoway as well.
Yeah, and
Dunkeld House is really beautiful too.
Okay, and I believe I was asking Jonathan this before. Many of our hotels that we stayed in Ireland all had a story, and Scotland is very similar to that. So yeah, I don't think you'll be disappointed. We'll have a variety again, and each one will have a history and a story behind it, which you will find interesting. So yeah. What else was I going to mention? Oh, some were asking about golf at St. Andrews, and wondering if they could fit in a round of golf at St. Andrews, as some are thinking that would be the highlight of their trip. And I don't know if there's do that, or if they would need to
well, you'd probably need to do a pre or post to do that. The only issue is at most of the famous golf courses in Scotland is there's a lottery system. So you can't actually book a tee time. You basically book your lottery slot, and you might get on that day or you might not. You might have to wait. So people will book like 3 days in St. Andrews. And then if they get on the first day, they can release their room, no problem. But that is the main issue. And also in September, getting a spot there, because it is a private club as well. They obviously have their local members and a lot of people there. So there are some wonderful courses you could possibly add there, but St. Andrews would be a very difficult one to get on to.
Okay. Yeah, and I was going to recommend that probably to stay another 2 days at the end of the trip, being that Edinburgh is very close to St. Andrews, you could easily get up there.
Yeah.
For some golfing if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you could rent a car or do, chauffeur drive trip, or renting a car would be the easiest. It'd be like an hour. And I mean, St. Andrews is obviously amazing, but there's also some really spectacular links courses that are less well known, but are still amazing and well worth.
Okay. All right. So I'm getting a lot of questions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box and we will go through them. I'm going to just back up a bit. And Guylaine was asking about the flavor of the whiskey. Does that come from which type of, she says grass they use, but the grain?
The grain would obviously have a big impact on it. I'm not a Scotch expert, so I can't tell you which type of which grain. But definitely the way it's aged, because of the unique weather, and because it's very moist air, very humid, and obviously a lot of peat in the landscape as well. It has that peaty flavor, and then they'll always use oak barrels as well, which are usually, I think mostly old bourbon casks from the US, they'll use to make it. So I'm not sure if it's grain related, but I know definitely Scotch is unique because of the moisture in the air when it's I was going to say brewing, but when it's aging in the barrel for 3 years.
Okay. So then we also have another question. Carrie Ann says, will hotels be all 4 or 5 star as they were in Ireland?
Yeah, they'd be all 4 star.
Yeah. Okay. And Nigel is asking, is it possible to go to the Glenfiddich distillery when we are there? That's something I guess that I'm going to write down. And
so Glenfiddich would be, again, that's a very famous distillery, but again, it's that's a bit off track from where the itinerary is going, but a really nice itinerary, but again, another one that's tough to get big groups into, especially in September. But this one wouldn't include that, but it is something we could look to include, but I don't think it would work based on the routing of the itinerary. Fortunately.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? The other one that I was going to ask you, when we were in northeastern Ireland, we could see Scotland across the way. Yeah. Where were we looking to when we're in Scotland on our trip? Can we see Ireland?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're probably a bit far north at the Isle of Skye. So you would have been at Larne in Northern Ireland, and it's only, at that point, I think it's 19 or 18 miles across to Scotland. So on a clear day, you can see it, and you're looking at Stranraer on the other side, which is where the ferry goes to. So, yeah, from Mallaig, after your steam train journey, you might be able to see the northern parts of Ireland from there, but I think you're a bit far north, and Ireland's a bit further south, so you might not, unfortunately, be able to see Ireland.
Okay. Are you able
to
back up on your screen and show us the map again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Had on there before of the itinerary. Someone was asking the dates, and I believe we are going to be looking at September 15th to the 26th, I think it is. It's not written in stone yet, so Jonathan and I were just discussing it'll either be the middle or the week after that, the departure. Most likely departing on a Wednesday, arriving on a Thursday, and then returning on the Sunday. So.
Yeah. And that's always a nice way to do it. Either, you kind of are going to be gone for 2 weekends, so you're not missing 2 full weeks if you leave on Monday. So it's a nice way to do it.
Yeah, there's our map.
So there's my expert drawing.
That's awesome. Oh, right. And so on there, we get on the train, the Jacobite train in Fort William.
Yeah, Fort William, and then you travel west to the next circle here, which is Malig.
Okay, and so
actually, you won't be seeing Ireland from there. You're going to see this island right in front of you, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, because Ireland's further south. So if you were down here, where I have it down in Bowmore area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Miguel, you are asking whether you can get an itinerary like I handed out after the Ireland travel talk. And yes, I will make sure that I have one that has all our changes fixed on it and send it out to you for sure. That will have day 1, day 2 kind of mapped out for you, what we'll be seeing and where we'll be going, as well as where we are staying. So
we can make up one the same as the Scotland one, a nice 2-page with a map and everything.
Right. Okay, that'd be great. And then on there, so as far as price goes, I haven't talked about price yet at all. Again, it's going to be based on double occupancy, 2 people in a room, sharing a room. There's, you can choose if you want to go with a friend. There's twin beds or double bed. And either one you can choose. If you want to go single by yourself and not share your room, that's also a possibility as well. There would be, though, a single supplement, as they call it, tacked onto the double occupancy price. So with that, for double occupancy right now, we have it at per person. And so this is just land only. And a couple differences between our Ireland one and this one is that I'm only going to sell land only right now. And then for being that airfare is not published yet at all for next year. So we'll look at doing group flights down the road. Some people might want to use their points that they have accumulated for travel. That's a possibility as well. But if you want to get in on a group flight with the majority of us, that I will let everyone know who has signed up for the trip, what the dates would be, or the time, I guess, of the flights would be, and then send out the pricing for that once I have it. That probably would not happen until January, February, most likely February of next year. So that's when they'll be publishing prices for flights then. So double occupancy right now, though, per person is $4,399 per person. And that is an extra night than our Ireland trip was. Scotland in general is a little more pricey than Ireland. So that's what Jonathan has been telling me. And you can see that even in the majority of tours when you compare Ireland to Scotland. It's the accommodation mostly, isn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah, it is, because we have a really nice Ireland tour, our Celtic Royal, which would be comparable to our Scottish Royal, and the Scottish Royal one starts at $600 more dollars for the same itinerary. So yeah, it is the hotels. They're just not quite as many. There's not as much availability of hotels. Yeah. And Scotland is now becoming extremely popular. Everyone wants to go to Scotland these days. So
yeah, you were saying this year everyone is wanting quotes for Scotland, not so much Ireland.
Yeah.
So they all saw Ireland last year. Everyone wants to go to Scotland this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And sorry, Carrie Ann says, yes, that is the price before flights, Carrie Ann. Flights right now, when I was looking for Scotland, are about $700 in the middle of September per person. So nice. That's what you can budget for that. Deposit per person would be what right now, Jonathan? What are you guys wanting from us?
Yeah, I mean, nothing at the moment, but it'd be $300 non-refundable per person at time of booking.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So right now I will just be gathering up a interested list those that are wanting to come with us. And if that is something that you are definitely interested in and you want to put your name in there, make sure that you send me a text, an email, a Facebook message, whichever way. Just touch base and I'll put you on the list. So yeah, I think if there's no other questions. Oh, Jen is wondering, how far is Loch Ness from Inverness?
Oh yeah, sorry. So Loch Ness isn't too far, so I didn't include it on the slides there, but we could probably definitely make a trip to Loch Ness and possibly visit Urquhart Castle when we're there on the way back from Inverness. Loch Ness is about 20 minutes from Inverness.
Oh, it's right on our way.
Yeah, so
awesome.
after Inverness, you can do kind of a morning stop at Loch Ness and possibly go to Urquhart Castle, which is another wonderful castle, but you might be all castled out by then because there's quite a lot of amazing castles there. You'll be going to Stirling, of course, Edinburgh at the end, and the ones on the islands, but they're all breathtaking. But just a nice stop at Loch Ness could be nice, and see the Loch Ness Monster. I saw someone was making fun of my drawing, asked me was I drawing the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, that was Guylaine.
Yeah.
Funny. Right now we have the Stirling Castle that we're seeing, and there is possibly the Dunvegan Castle.
Yeah, Dunvegan, or either Dunvegan or Eilean Donan Castle on Isle of Skye, and then there'd be, of course, Edinburgh Castle, and then everywhere there's castles.
Right. Okay, and everywhere that we drive by, we see castles all along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even more so than Ireland, you'll see even more castles in Scotland.
Wow. Okay, interesting. Yeah. And to think that they haven't made many of those castles into hotels, they're missing out.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of them are just ruins on the side of the road. But I find, the actual castles you visit in Scotland are more impressive than the ones in Ireland in terms of the castles, like not to stay in, but just to visit. So they seem to build, better castles back in the day in Scotland, but not 5-star hotels suitable like in Ireland.
Okay. Couple more questions. Rita is wondering, where are the Lothians?
The what?
Lothians or Lothians?
Is that the large healthy? I'm not sure what the Lothian.
What you mean, Rita. And
no, I should know. I know.
Guylaine, while Rita maybe types a little bit more there, an explanation. Guylaine is wondering what the price all includes. And so what you see in front of you right now, Guylaine, is what the price includes. So $43.99 per person, and it would be 11 days touring, 10 nights accommodation, 4 to 5 meals. Actually, I believe it's going to be
it's more than
meals. That. I think, I'm pretty sure it's 5 meals plus the meal with the Scottish entertainment.
Yeah.
And so that would be 6 total. That's dinners. Okay, so evening dinners, which are amazing. If it's anything like Ireland, it's 3-course meals, awesome food, really, really delicious. And it would always, your breakfast would always be included. Lunches would be extra. So that's the one thing that would be extra. And you would have 4 evenings to go out on your own and explore and have dinner on your own. So that would not be included, the 4 meals. Okay. The steam train is included there, and all our visits to all the castles, all the ferries are included. Everything else would be included except for any gratuities, that's extra. So at the end of the tour, if you have enjoyed your tour guide, your bus driver, then that's when we would take usually like a little collection from everyone, whoever wants to put into a card, and we give that to our guide, the gratuities at the end. So that would be extra. Really, anything you want to buy as far as souvenirs to bring home, that's not included. But otherwise, really, everything else is included except for your lunches and for dinners.
Yeah. And on the porterage would be included at the hotels as well. So the drivers and guides and people at the hotels will look after your bags. So all you have to do is get them to the guide in the airport, and then you'll see it again in your room. And then every morning you're moving hotel, you just leave it outside about 30 minutes before departure, and then you'll see it in your next hotel room. So
that's
it makes it a little easier.
That's a very nice perk, a plus, not to have to worry about getting your luggage to the bus in the morning or taking it up to your room. They always deliver and pick it up. So it is a treat. So Guylaine says that the Lothian is a region of the Scottish lowlands lying between the southern shore of the Firth of Forth and the Lammermuir Hills. Do you see that, Jonathan?
I don't see it, but I know I've heard of the Lothians. But
it's the lowlands, the Scottish lowlands. So there's the Highlands and the lowlands.
Yeah, so the Highlands kind of starts like just north of Glasgow and Edinburgh, like just north of Stirling area. So everything above that is considered the Highlands. So the lowlands is everything below that, basically.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I guess that is Jen saying, will we be staying in an asylum? If so, she's out. That was one of our hotels in Ireland was an old asylum, which was hilarious. We didn't know that until we arrived. But when you get into your room, it had the feeling of an asylum. It had, it was awesome. And then we started looking at it and Googling it and finding out that people had seen ghosts there and all these stories, about which ghosts they had. So some people thought.
Do you remember what hotel it was?
Oh, what was the name of it, Jen? I don't remember. I don't know if anyone remembers, but it was really a classic stay. I have never stayed in any place like that. So some really enjoyed it and some didn't sleep that night. So I don't think we're staying in any asylums in Scotland. No. So you should be safe. You are safe, Jen. She thought she'd have to spend the night in the bar, she said.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's not a bad thing.
No.
I do have a trivia question.
Okay, so here we go with the trivia.
I only have one question, but it's quite a tough one. But we can give away two. We'll give away two $10 Starbucks gift cards, which I will email to you, Leah, and you can send on to the winners.
Awesome. Okay. So for the first two, how should we do it? The first two that
no, I wouldn't say the first two. Maybe you just give everyone a chance to answer, and then you give them all 30 seconds or something.
Okay.
And then they can you just pick two winners, and then.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay. Does everyone know how to use their chat box? At the bottom of your screen, if you're on your computer or your laptop, it's at the bottom. Run your mouse down there. It should say chat. You could just click on it and then you can type into the chat box.
It's a multiple choice, so it's A, B, C, D. So you'll just have to type one letter.
Maybe it's not so easy, but it's easy to do anyways. You don't have to type it all out. And if you're on your phone, I believe you can just tap on the three dots and then it'll give you a chat feature there. So, all right, Jonathan. It was called the Clarion Hotel in Ireland.
Oh, yeah. The Clarion or the Clayton in Sligo, maybe.
Oh, that's what it was. It was the Clayton in Sligo, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't been to that. Okay.
Or it could have been the Clarion. Anyway.
Yeah, she says the Clayton is right. All right.
Okay, it's actually a tough question, and I only found out from a webinar with the tourist board a couple of months ago. Okay. So who knows the national animal of Scotland?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. See if anyone knows before I give the option.
Animal.
I'm gonna give the option now. We'll give you some options.
Here's the options.
So is it the Highland cow or the Highland coo, the unicorn, the fox, or the Highland sheep? Not as easy as you think. I got it wrong the first time, but two $10 gift cards on the line. So
okay, here goes. Everyone's chiming in there, and I'm gonna just take a picture of our answers here so I can see it later. All right, we have a real variety of answers, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like we've got every choice here. Before you put up the choices, we had sheep and so that we have a few that are saying unicorn, the healing coo, everything. So what is the answer, Jonathan?
Okay.
I
the unicorn.
It is the unicorn. Yes.
Yeah. Not even an actual animal. But
Isn't that funny?
Obviously, very mythical place, Scotland.
Yeah.
I don't know the history of the unicorn, but you know, there's a lot of great stories you'll hear from your driver and guide as you go. But yeah, I didn't know this until recently, that the unicorn is the national animal symbol of Scotland. So there you go.
That is.
You didn't know you were going to learn that today.
Learn something new. And another thing that I learned was the capital city of Scotland. When you say Glasgow is the biggest city, I didn't realize that was the biggest, but often the biggest is the capital, but it's not in this case. It's Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Hey?
Edinburgh. I was actually going to ask that as well, but I thought that'd be too easy a question.
Yeah, and
so I didn't include.
When you just told us that Glasgow is the biggest, so I would just assume, well, it's got to be the capital.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Edinburgh is the capital, but they're both, they're both really great cities. They're both very different.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to see one for 2 days at the start and one for 2 days at the end. And Edinburgh is probably slightly nicer of the two, so a great way to finish the trip.
Excellent. Oh, and some of you are
see
wondering
some unicorns.
Well, a couple other things to note. We will do some sort of a cooking, either demonstration or experience when we are in Scotland. Jonathan is working on that right now. So that's something that really made our Ireland trip. It was amazing, just going to Tracy's home and doing the cooking experience with her, where we made soda bread and soda flour. So I think in Scotland, we are going to have something there as well. Something else that's on the list that, what do they call it now, Jonathan? The sweet that...
the fudge.
Yeah, it's not fudge.
I know, but you told me what it was, and I forgot.
No, I can't think of it. Anyways, there is a famous, a very well-known business in Edinburgh that sells this particular Scottish fudge, and there's every kind of flavor you can even imagine. So we are definitely putting that on the list, just like we stopped in the chocolate shop in Doolin in Ireland. We stopped in that chocolate shop, which ended up turning into a spontaneous singing fest.
That sounds about right in Doolin.
Yeah, and so we got in on that. So we'll see what the fudge shop in Edinburgh brings for us when we stop in there.
Yeah.
But it's something that the Scottish they're well known for, this particular kind of candy. So I wanted to stick that on our list. Tablet. Thanks, Jen. That's what it's called. Tablet. Scottish tablet. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
How do you say it, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Tablet?
Did you type it?
Yeah. T-A-B-L-E-T.
Yeah, you just say tablet. Or,
tablet, is that how they
Scottish tablet, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Sean's wondering if there would be a chance to fish. I guess you could probably go out fishing on one of the islands in the evening.
Yeah, I don't see why not. You couldn't, I think it's illegal on the lakes, but in the sea it wouldn't be. So you might catch yourself some mackerel. Find a local fisherman.
Exactly, yeah. Make friends with a local fisherman and borrow his fishing rod and cast a few.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I think that about sums it up. Please send me any questions that you might have, that you might think of after this travel talk is finished, and we'll be happy to answer them. Of course, there are still a few things that we are still confirming for our itinerary, but the majority of it, the itinerary is kind of set in stone, part of it, but we can make a few stops like Loch Ness.
Loch Ness.
And add that to our itinerary as well. So we are a little flexible and want to incorporate as much as we can when we are visiting Scotland. So make it the best trip possible. And I know with Jonathan's help, it will be, as was our Irish itinerary. So hopefully, if you are interested, I look forward to hearing from you. And otherwise, thanks for joining us in our little Scotland, Best of Scotland talk tonight. And next week, we have a number of travel talks again, 2 of them coming up. So I will be sending out an updated email to you so you can sign up for those. But have a great weekend, everyone. And we'll connect again soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Leah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan. It's been a blast. We'll be talking soon.
You too. Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Bye.